Welcome to Passionaire Magazine, the podcast where we talk about business, tech, food and travel, fashion, health and fitness, the arts and culture, where we want you to live your passion. Passionaire Magazine, the podcast. Thank you, everyone, for joining me for Passionaire Magazine, the podcast. My guest today, and I am so happy and excited to be talking with you today. John, I realize that there may be some folks that are a little bit unfamiliar with you. You have such an amazing and awesome title, lineup, description of who you are. You wear many hats, like a lot of folks I know in the world. But for folks that don't know you or aren't familiar with you, can you give us a little bit of a background on you? Who are you? What makes you you?
Well, I will tell you that I'm a farm kid from Kentucky. I went to for undergrad. I went to the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina, and from that, I earned a Navy scholarship, where I was gonna serve for 4 years to pay back the scholarship, and I served 32. It was a wonderful time, very challenging. 9 years at sea and 6 years in command, but in doing so, I wound up getting married, having a family, 2 children and 5 grandchildren, and so that was a wonderful time. I wrote a book as I was leaving the Navy. And sort of put it on the shelf for a while as I did some CEO duty for a company called UV Sheltron in Detroit. I did that for 3 years. In that time, I was talking with publishers and publicists. The book wound up attracting the attention of some folks who wanted to publish it. It's called From Bluegrass to Blue Water, Lessons in Farm Philosophy and Navy Leadership. The book's done very well. It was released last October, and there was a reprint in less than 60 days. Subsequent to me releasing the book, the publisher came to me and said, "We'd like for you to write some more books." So I basically had a hard decision to make. I couldn't be a CEO and a writer at the same time. And being the son of an educator, I took the leap of faith to be a writer. So I left the CEO job. I write. I've got 6 titles I'm working on. I hope to push a couple of them over the finish line by the end of the year. I also advise some corporations, and I lecture at colleges, universities, and civic organizations. I've lectured at Columbia University to their senior CEO course, and at the Naval Academy and the Citadel, I've lectured this spring to some folks who are getting ready to serve our country as second lieutenants in the Marine Corps and ensigns in the Navy. So in a nutshell, that's what I've done and what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, as a daughter to a retired Air Force person, to a wife to a former Marine, and to the mom of an Army MP. Thank you for your service. It is always a blessing to spend time with our servicemen, in that they shed a certain light on what's going on in the world, and we are able to see a different perspective of those that are really dealing with what it means to live in the land of the free and the home of the brave, right? So thank you so much for your service, both military-wise and as far as taking those lessons and transferring those things into the civilian world. Thank you for doing that as well. Not everyone is able to make that transition. So thank you so much for doing that. I find that that's really, really awesome. And you guys, let me tell you something. He's being truly humble and just kind of glossing over that. If you have an opportunity to visit his website, please do. He's really an awesome and amazing guy. So I love that he's trying to be humble about that. Thank you for that as well. Now, when you were a child, I know that many times when we are kids, we think that we're going to do or be a certain thing. Little girls have a tendency to say that they want to be a ballerina or a singer or, something like that. And boys want to, be a scientist or play football and all of that. When you were a child, what did you think you were going to do as an adult?
Dr. Angela, I have to tell you, we were so busy on the farm. My brother and my sister And for me, we had no idea what we were going to do. All we knew is that the priority system of my parents was farm, faith, and education. And as it lent itself to education, my father, who never went to college, discussed college at every meal. And we knew we were going. We had no idea how we would pay for it. We knew we were going. And so we all did go. I went to the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. It's a military school, and that really was the gateway toward me serving in the military, both from the standpoint of you have to do an ROTC program when you're at the Citadel, and they offered me a scholarship, and my family history, like yours, is one of service, especially in the military. So going back several generations, it's wired into my DNA to serve, and as it is with many of my other family members. So that's really how it came about. Mother was an educator, and dad pushed education, and my brother and sister and I all went to college, all graduated on time, and all have had noteworthy careers.
One of the things that I gave to my son was the gift of the military cards, the draft cards or the registration cards for all of the men that have represented the various generations in our family, and to be able to go back and say, someone has fought since the Mayflower. That is awesome and amazing. And you two are following in that path. You're continuing that great legacy. And like you said, when you are born into a civic-minded family, then you kind of hold that banner up, and you're happy to do so, because you know that it is important to continue to carry on the legacy in one form or the other, however that is. So shout out to all of those parents out there that perhaps they did not go to college, but they knew that education is important, and to make a way for the next generation. We hear a lot of that, especially from our baby boomer generation. Their parents did not perhaps go to college, but they made a way for them too. So I applaud everyone's efforts with that. Thank you for that. Now, for someone who is saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe that you were in the military and then you decided to go into corporate America. What in the world ever made you decide to do that? I want to give you an opportunity to answer that question. What is the point of your business, or who did you determine you wanted to assist or help once you were no longer military?
Well, my business as it exists now is JT Palmer Enterprises, LLC. It's a South Carolina company. And it supports my efforts in authorship and consulting and lecturing. But the previous job I had was as CEO for a company called UV Sheltron in Detroit, Michigan, that changed their name to Sheltron Incorporated. And they really had two product lines that were very interesting. One is uses ultraviolet light in machines that disinfect object spaces and purify air. So during COVID, you can imagine those were really heady times. And then the second line of operation that we got into was electrical vehicle charging stations, and not the ones that you normally see, but really ones that come in a package of 6 where you can drop it in a parking lot and it can be placed in use within a day. It's really good for if you have emergent use of charging stations. You could say, like for the Super Bowl, you could put several of these in there. There are 3 chargers on each side. It's plugged into the grid right away. It goes to work. So those types of things were of interest to me when I got out of the military. I should point out I was a logistician in the Navy Supply Corps, and so we're at sea a lot, and we're supporting the fight. But those are business concepts that I was taught while I was in service. So they transferred over very easily and very quickly to the corporate side. And that's how I was able to get a CEO job so quickly leaving the military.
Mhm. That definitely makes sense, but how innovative. I love that idea. Like you said, if you could use it in a setting like in the Super Bowl, if it's an event and you need something like that, that is awesome. Because it seems like there's never enough charging stations wherever you go. I have a few friends that have electric cars or hybrid cars, and they say, I tell you, you really have to make sure you plan this out accordingly, because sometimes there's only 3 charging stations, or there's only 6 where there's going to be hundreds of people. So you really do have to plan. Very innovative. I love that. Now, looking back on the life that you have led, we have a little phrase, of course, and everyone knows it, that hindsight is 2020. So let me ask you this. Is there any advice that the person you are today would give to your younger self that would have been very helpful when you were in the stage of starting your business?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And I think one of the things I ran into in my previous corporate side is what I consider to be the biggest fallacy of the 21st century. And that is that relationships don't matter because business can be conducted through emails and texts and website interaction. I have to tell you, my experience is that nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, relationships, personal communications, mentorship, all those things are even more important because the frequency of face-to-face engagements is much less now than what I experienced when I was younger. In fact, there are no throwaway interactions with customers, partners, and associates. So my advice would be prepared to advance your cause at a moment's notice, anywhere, at any time, because that can make the difference between you closing a deal, making a sale, or not.
Yeah. I have to agree with you on that. It seems like the convenience of technology has, for many, um, given them an excuse not to leave the house or not to go out and do that face to face anymore. And having survived COVID, I think that many people want to go back to that traditional way of having that handshake, that face to face, that time in the other person's presence, just to get a feel for what they are trying to share. And it's just nice to be able to network with people in the same space. Don't get me wrong. Zoom calls are great and all that good stuff, but it's nothing like having that meet and greet with someone face to face. I know for TV, I'm looking forward to getting back in studio and seeing and spending time with people as opposed to just doing it remotely. So I agree with you there. Now, as far as mentorship is concerned, and you mentioned that, and that is so important. At least I feel that it is important. Can you name a person who has had a tremendous impact on you as a leader, that mentor or that person who's really given some great advice that has really made an impact on your life?
Well, Dr. Angela, I would say that I mentioned as a child, it was my parents and their priority system of farm, faith, and education. As a naval officer, over the 32 years I was in, I have to tell you, the stable of superb mentors I had, they're too numerous to mention. But let's just say I was blessed to be led and supported by some of the very, very best in the U.S. Navy, United States Marine Corps, and the Joint Forces. I'll also say that at home, my wife Brooks of 34 years, she has been everything to me and my family. I would tell you, in the military, I've known many a great sailor, many a great Marine, who wanted to serve, wanted to continue to serve, and they couldn't because, for whatever reason, their family just couldn't hack the life.
Yeah.
My wife went through 19 moves, and we at one time did 5 moves in 6 years. My children moved schools at least every other year. My son did, middle school's 3 years. He did 3 middle schools in 3 different states over 3 years. So there's sure some sacrifice there. But my wife kept it all together. I was
Yeah.
gone for stints of time as long as 8 months, overseas and the like. And she was able to keep the home fires burning. So, now, today and in the future, we're in Spartanburg, South Carolina. My wife continues to work as a registered nurse at the local hospital. She's allergic to idleness. We're settled in her hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina. We have 2 adult children and five grandchildren. One that was born just a couple months ago. So to say we are blessed is a grand understatement.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Congratulations on the additional family member. That's always exciting. I love it. I love it. And you are so right. Kudos to your wife for taking on that role. I have to remind people that though your spouse may be the person who's active duty, the family is serving alongside that service member. And for those who are doing this as a career for long term, it does take some getting used to. There is some sacrifice, but I think at the end of it all, when you are able to look back over it, you've made friends from one coast to the other. You've gotten an opportunity to, see this beautiful country of ours. But it also brings you, at least in my opinion, together as a family, because you realize that, we're going to move in 2 years, or we're going to move in another year. And the one thing that is consistent is that love that you have for each other. So you are so right. It is not for the faint of heart. And, definitely, again, kudos to those wives and those husbands that are making sure that the household is held together while that service member is out doing their duty to country. So I love it. I love it. Now, what 3 things do you do on a daily basis, or do you feel that you try to do at least on a daily basis, that really helps contribute to you being a better leader, or you at least stepping out being the best John that you can be it that you are stepping out in that leadership role, or you're just trying to be the best husband and dad that you can be?
Really good question. I would say that if we break it down to just 3 things, one is sort of self-care. So exercise, about 5 days a week. I call it the 80-year plan. It's just to make sure that everything continues to be in working order, that I can be a good husband to my wife, that I can be a good father, and most especially a good active grandfather to the 5 grandkids. So exercise is one thing. I would also say, in that spirit of farm faith and education that, our parents, instilled in us, devotionals are important. We're a family of faith, and, of course, attend church on Sundays, but I try to do some type of daily devotional, of self-reflection, or prayer each day, reading the Bible. There are the daily offices that are found in my old Armed Forces prayer book, which covers any time of the day: morning prayer, noon devotional, into early afternoon or evening prayer. And I find if I can pick a time in the day to reflect and self-assess and pray, that settles me out tremendously. It relieves a lot of stress and gives me clarity of thinking and purity of motive. And then finally, for my wife and for me, laughter. Whatever it was that put us together, we have found a way to laugh a lot. We have complementary personalities. We keep things light, and I would tell you that is that's important to us. We get a good chuckle, a dozen or so times a day, and that just allows us to have a lot of good spice to life. So yeah, exercise, some type of faith devotional, and finding a way to enjoy time with my wife and us to have a good laugh.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love those bits of advice. And you're right. If Other people don't understand why you two are still laughing at that one little corny joke that seems like you've been sharing between the two of you for like the past 20 years. That is awesome sauce. And I tell people that, it's not about what everyone else thinks is okay. It's like what really makes the two of you smile and what makes you happy, and keep that flame going that way. And you'll find that at least the people that I've interviewed, one of the things that they said and you said is don't take it too seriously. Give yourself permission to just have fun and just enjoy each other's presence. So you are so right there. And another good one, you said that faith part. Now, many people know, I'm a pastoral counselor and all that other good stuff, but I find that is something that is so important in our day, and not letting that go. Now that we're getting back into the hustle and bustle of normal life again, don't let that daily scripture that you were doing or that time with God disappear, because it really did get us through some tough times, and we should definitely make sure that stays in our to-dos, and it wasn't just a crutch during a time of difficulty, but it simply becomes a part or way of life. However you want to do that, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, I know that for so many folks that I have the pleasure of speaking with, one of the things that's important to them is a sense of legacy. They want to leave the world a better place than how they found it. And I am one of those people as well. If I can contribute positively to a conversation, I'm definitely going to do that. So I want to ask you, how do you use your voice to empower others?
Well, Dr. Angela, I would tell you that I believe mentorship is really the key for me, either one-on-one or through lectures or by way of my book. Military members are programmed to mentor and to be mentored voraciously. And I held many positions that gave me cause to be a resource for younger officers and enlisted folks asking about career and so forth. I was pretty sought after, and would typically push my mentoring sessions into one time of the week. Usually it was Friday afternoon. So you could count on me spending afternoon on Friday, 2 to 3 hours talking with folks about their careers, their personal lives, and so forth. And I still receive requests to this day, at least nearly every week for similar discussions. The mentorship experience drove me to the authorship of Bluegrass to Blue Water. The whole point of that book is to serve as a mentorship resource regarding one's personal and professional life from adolescence all the way to pinnacle positions, which could be general, admiral, or the C-suite. In the book, each lessons chapter is followed by a chapter full of stories that describe how the lesson was derived or how it was applied. And the stories reinforce the lessons, and half of the stories are of failures, because we learn from our failures equally as much, if not more, than from our successes. And so the design of the book is when a professional is approaching a new career milestone, whether they're going from new entrant to middle management to senior management to command to the C-suite, they can pull the book off the shelf and read the 2 chapters that apply to the next milestone they're approaching. They can look at themselves through the eyes of their soon-to-be new bosses and ask themselves if they like what they see. They can make necessary adjustments to time management, personnel engagement, communications, resource trade-off, data analysis, and family health and welfare. And they can also give the book to new associates that are junior to them to assist them as they mentor down the chain of command for their junior folks' new career milestones. So it really is. Yeah, the book was how I codified one of the most rewarding experiences I had in the military, which was mentoring and being mentored by some really great Americans.
I love it. Well, I thank you for continuing to add your voice to those that are trying to make the way easier for community, for global community, and especially for the next generation. Thank you so much, John Palmer, for spending time with me here today on Passioneer Magazine, the podcast. I appreciate your being here. Now, before I let you go, if someone wants to reach out to you, be it that they want to pick up a copy of the book or perhaps they want to invite you to be a speaker at their event, what is the best way to reach out to you? We know the book is available, of course, on Amazon or wherever books are sold, but how do we get to you?
Well, you can get me on my website, www.jtpalmerenterprises.com. And on that website, there is a contact page, and it will allow you to send me a message, and I will get it and respond to it within 1 or 2 work days. You can also order the book from the website. It will direct you. There are 10 online spots where you can order the book, including Amazon. My publisher, Fidelis Publishing in Nashville, they're marvelous. They give a great price break there on there as well. And then there are over a dozen, I think 15 bookstores throughout the South that have the book physically. So if you want to get in touch with me from the standpoint of discussion, mentorship, speaking, or whatever the case may be, you can do it through the contact page. If you want to order the book, Bluegrass, it's From Bluegrass to Blue Water, Lessons in Farm Philosophy and Navy Leadership. The portal is there on the website also. So I thank you for asking me that, and look forward to hearing from everyone.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again for being a guest here on Passioneer Magazine, the podcast. I appreciate you spending time with me here today.
Thank you, Dr. Angela.
Thank you for listening to Passioneer Magazine, the podcast.